Every conversation is a chance to grow, even the ones you have with yourself. Real learning doesn't happen in the classroom, it happens in the everyday.
Hello, English learners, and welcome back to English Podcast Rise. My name is James, and today's episode is all about something incredibly powerful, but often overlooked, daily routine. Now, you might be wondering, what does your routine have to do with learning English? Actually, quite a lot. Creating habits, repeating certain language patterns, and using English in your everyday life, even in small ways, can speed up your fluency dramatically. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Catherine, who's here to share her real-life workday routine with all its challenges, rituals, and surprises. She'll walk us through what her day looks like from morning to evening, and along the way, we'll break down some useful expressions, vocabulary, and communication tips you can apply to your own routine, no matter where you live. Catherine, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here.
Hey, James, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, we're talking about routines today. Walk us through your morning. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
Honestly, I hit the snooze button at least once. But seriously, I usually wake up around 6:30 a.m., though it varies a bit depending on how late I worked the night before. I like to start slow. I sit up in bed, stretch, and take a moment to just breathe.
Oh.
No phone, no emails. Just a few minutes of clarity.
That's rare these days, so no doom scrolling first thing?
Exactly, I used to do that. Scroll through the news, social media, but I realized it messed with my head. Now I try to be intentional. I go straight to the kitchen, make a cup of coffee, black no sugar, and listen to an audiobook
Nice.
or a podcast while making breakfast.
Multitasking? Nice. That's a great tip for language learners too. Listening to English in the background while doing daily tasks helps a lot.
Absolutely. I started doing that when I was learning Spanish, and it really worked. The brain absorbs more than you think when you're relaxed.
All right, so you've had your coffee and your breakfast. What's next?
Around 8 a.m., I get ready and head to work.
Yeah.
I work in digital marketing, so my days are usually packed. I commute by subway, about 30 minutes, and I use that time to go over emails or make a mental to-do list.
Okay. Mental organization, key to productivity.
Exactly. Once I get to the office, I check in with my team. We usually have a quick stand-up meeting where we share our priorities for the day. What's urgent, what's pending, that kind of thing.
Quick vocabulary point, stand-up meeting. That's a short, informal meeting, usually held while standing, right?
Yeah, precisely. It's meant to be brief. 10, maybe 15 minutes max. After that, I get into deep work. I'll write campaign emails, review analytics, or brainstorm content ideas.
Okay.
Sometimes we have back-to-back calls, especially with international clients.
So you're communicating constantly?
Pretty much. And communication is everything. Knowing how to phrase things clearly, especially in email, can really make or break a project.
Great point. Do you find tone is important too?
Absolutely. Even in written form, tone matters. You have to know when to be formal, when to be friendly, and how to strike that balance. That's a skill in any language.
What happens midday? Is there a lull?
Definitely right. After lunch is usually the hardest part. Around 2 p.m. when the brain just wants a nap.
The famous afternoon slump.
Yep. To counter that, I either go for a quick walk or change tasks.
Yeah.
Shift to something more creative. That helps reset my focus.
That's a great strategy. Change the rhythm to keep your brain engaged.
Precisely. I also try to hydrate and stand up at least once every hour. I use this app that reminds me to stretch. It sounds silly, but it works.
And how does your workday usually end?
I aim to log off by 6:30 p.m. I wrap up with a quick review, check off tasks I've completed, jot down what needs attention tomorrow, and then I shut my laptop. That mental closure is crucial.
I like that. A kind of mini debrief with yourself.
Yeah, after work, I usually cook dinner. It's a way for me to unwind. No screens, just chopping vegetables and listening to music. Then I might read, watch a series in English, or chat with friends. Nothing too heavy.
That sounds like a perfect way to decompress. Honestly, I think more people need that. A bit of stillness at the end of the day. Do you usually watch anything specific in English?
I'm a bit of a documentary nerd, to be honest. Anything about psychology, human behavior, or history. But I also love British dramas. I like how subtle the dialogue can be. It forces me to really listen.
That's so true. British shows tend to use a lot of subtext and nuanced expressions. It's a great listening challenge. I used to do the same when I was learning German. I'd watch the same episode of a show twice,
Okay,
once with subtitles, then again without.
that's smart.
Yep,
It's almost like training your ear to catch the rhythm of the language.
exactly. And repetition makes a big difference. By the way, speaking of language learning, what's your background like? I mean, did you study languages at university?
Actually, no. I studied business communication and psychology. But I always had an interest in languages. I took French in high school and tried to pick up Spanish during university, though I never became fluent. I've always believed that language is one of the most powerful tools we have, whether in business or in daily life.
Totally agree. I come from a linguistics background. I studied applied linguistics and teaching English as a second or foreign language. That's teaching English to speakers of other languages. I was always fascinated by how people actually use language, not just grammar and rules, but the real, messy, human part of it.
That sounds like such a unique and people-centered path.
Thanks.
Was that something you always knew you wanted to study?
Not at all. I actually started off studying journalism. I loved writing, storytelling, but over time, I realized I was more drawn to how people communicate, especially across cultures. I took one introductory linguistics class and boom, I was hooked.
So cool. What was it that grabbed you?
Honestly, it was this one moment. Our professor played audio clips of different English accents from around the world, Nigerian English, Singaporean English, Scottish English, and asked us, which one is correct? Everyone froze, and then he said, they're all English. There is no one correct way. That idea stayed with me.
That's so powerful, especially for learners who are constantly worried about sounding wrong.
Exactly. That moment changed how I saw language, not as a fixed set of rules, but as something living, changing, shaped by real people. That's what led me to teaching English as a second or foreign language. I wanted to help people use English confidently, not just memorize it.
That mindset must make you a great teacher. So where did you study?
I did my bachelor's in Canada at the University of British Columbia, and then moved to the UK for my master's in applied linguistics. It was such an international environment, classmates from all over the world, each bringing their own language perspective.
That must have been an incredible learning experience, not just academically, but culturally.
Absolutely. I learned as much from my peers as I did from the coursework. I remember doing group projects where we had to analyze real conversations, break down miscommunications, and explore how things like intonation or body language affect meaning. It made me hyper aware of how much of language is beyond just words.
That's so true. Even in my field, marketing, we focus so much on how something is said, not just what's being said. Tone, phrasing, timing, it all matters.
Yes. And that's where I think language teaching sometimes misses the mark. It focuses too much on correctness, not enough on connection. That's why I started working in more conversation-based learning and eventually launched this podcast to bring real voices and real situations into the learning process.
We're talking about daily routines, work stress, leadership, and language all at once. This is what people need. Real, layered conversations.
Catherine, I couldn't have said it better. You've been incredibly generous with your insights, from your daily routine to your reflections on leadership and communication.
Thank you, James.
These are exactly the kinds of conversations we aim to bring to this podcast. Honest, practical, and deeply human. To our listeners, remember every part of your day is a chance to practice English. Speak it, write it, think in it, even for just a few minutes. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow learner. You'll find vocabulary, transcripts, and tips in the show notes. Until next time, stay steady, stay curious, and keep stepping forward.